Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Veronika Sonsev, co-founder of CommerceNext. We're a community and event series for marketers at retail and direct-to-consumer brands. On behalf of my co-founders, Scott Silverman and Alan Dick, I'd like to welcome you to the 14th webinar in the CommerceNext webinar series. The topic for today is how to prepare for a digitally driven holiday. Thank you for tuning in and for taking the time to join live or to listen to the replay. During the webinar, we'll be taking your questions, so feel free to load them up during the presentation. I want to start with a few thank yous. First, I want to thank today's speakers, Jeff Gerstel, Chief Marketing Officer at B&H Photo Video, Jacob Rokeach, VP of Growth and E-commerce at Anine Bing, Yvonne Martin, Director of E-commerce at John Varvatos Enterprises, and Mario Ciabarra, Founder and CEO of Quantum Metrics. Thank you for taking the time to share your insights with our community, especially given everything that is going on these days. We're excited to partner with Quantum Metric on the webinar. They have some interesting data on e-commerce shopping that they're going to share with us. And that's going to lay the foundation for our panel discussion on how to prepare for a digitally driven holiday. Now, I want to just go through a few announcements. So first of all, we are off for webinars next week, but we'll be back in 2 weeks on July 8th for a webinar on the case for customer lifetime value-based advertising. On that webinar, we have Tracy Inglis with Retail Wins, Andreas Reifen and Irene Kogel with Crealytics, Fayez Ahmed with Google, and this will be hosted by CommerceNext co-founder Alan Dick. I also want to encourage everyone to register for the CommerceNext Virtual Summit. The registration is now open. The virtual summit will take place on July 28th and 29th from 1 to 5 p.m. We have amazing speakers, including Gail Tifford from WW, Nate Checketts from Roan, Aaron Hernandez from Untuckit, and Sucharita Kodali from Forrester, and really many more. So go to commercenext.com/virtual summit to learn more about it. I also want to encourage you to submit nominations for our Black Speakers database. The goal is to create more visibility for Black leaders in retail and e-commerce. You can submit speakers via bit.ly/BlackSpeakersDB. With the speaker's permission, we will share our list with other conference organizers. Our goal is really to create more visibility for diverse voices in both live and in-person events. Just a few housekeeping items. Don't worry about taking notes. Don't worry if you missed anything. We're recording this webinar. We'll make it available tomorrow. I just want to take a moment to show you where everything is on the screen before we jump in. So first of all, if you have any questions, you'll notice there's a panel on the right. And in that panel, you'll see that there's links to QA polls and handouts. You can click on QA, enter your question on the bottom, and then Scott Silverman is monitoring those questions and will publish them for the audience. If you see a question and you particularly think it's an important question to get answered, make sure you're upvoting the question. We're tracking that. We're looking at those questions. And the ones that are upvoted the most are the ones that are going to get asked to the panelists. Also, if you're looking for handouts, in the right-hand panel, the slides from today's webinar, as well as a couple of handouts from Quantum Metrics are available. And if you're watching this, if you're watching this on the replay, in the player on the bottom, you'll see a link and that'll have the handouts there as well. So we're really excited about the topic for today's webinar. We know that holiday 2020 is going to be the biggest digital holiday yet. On our last webinar, we asked participants whether they thought holiday 2020 would have higher online penetration rates than current COVID accelerated rates. And 78% of respondents said yes. So if every day for you looks like Cyber Monday and Black Friday, strap on your seatbelts because we're in for a wild ride this holiday season. And for that reason, we're really excited to have Mario Ciabarra join us today. Mario is founder and CEO of Quantum Metrics. He's going to share some data on what they're seeing from their customers during this COVID period and talk about what it means for holiday 2020. Mario, you can take it over from here.
Thanks, Veronika. It's a pleasure, and thanks for including us. The challenge that we have with managing our businesses online today is many people run their business using reference points. How are we doing? What's the conversion rate, year over year, month over month, what's our traffic, what's our revenue. And all that has been thrown out the door as we hit the pandemic, as we realized that the demand really exceeded what we had budgeted or had planned for. So sort of in that world of be careful what you wish for, because when your goals were to drive revenue and drive traffic online, it fell into our laps unexpectedly. So how do we as brands know what's good, what's bad? I found in working with leaders across retail, they're so hungry for how's everyone else doing, because the way that they used to run their business as a benchmark and comparison has been thrown out the door. So I'm excited to share a little bit about what we've learned and the trends that we've seen across retail e-commerce over the last few months during this pandemic. It's very obvious in these charts that we can see. We've gathered this data across over 600 million unique visitors around the world in the last 30 days, over these periods. And so what we're seeing, as we can all expect, is massive growth happening in that digital channel. I almost question the words of omni-channel and digital channel anymore, because for most of our customers, such a large portion of their business has become online that they're dropping the names channel as they append what's happening on digital. But we can see here this massive spike in March. And what was very obvious and expected is that we had revenue grow. I think what was also interesting to compare was not just the category across revenue and the number of orders growing, as you can expect, but as we saw, is that an exciting anecdotal, another reference point was that people that came online, they're more likely to purchase. So the conversion rate went up as well. And I want to share these metrics because oftentimes people are wondering, is my conversion rate good or bad? It's gone up. So should we pat ourselves on the back, or should we be trying to get more? And so hopefully these metrics going from on average, in the twos and high twos to more likely in the 4% conversion rates. We're seeing a dip as the worldwide markets open up, and we do see retail coming back to life a little bit, the physical retail coming back to life. We are seeing some expected drops in conversion rates. But I think one of the really interesting data points that we've seen was that the average order value is actually less. So this means that people are putting less items in their basket and checking out because online digital purchases have become more of a convenience. It's more of a, I need one thing. All of this taxes our logistics, our supply chain, our delivery mechanisms, our cost of delivery. So these are just interesting metrics that we thought we would share. And as we look at what's coming into play for holiday 2020, we Veronika just shared, I think we all have this obvious expectation that digital is going to play a more critical role than ever, where some of our business was done online in the past, just so much more of our habits have changed and they're not going to go back. We see this across even beyond retail. And how do we handle this run up to holiday? Typically organizations we work with, they prepared for the holiday season, but almost every day right now for most of our customers, large retailers around the world are saying it's holiday every day. Like Veronika said, it's looking more like a Black Friday or Cyber Monday every day. How do we have that bandwidth and maneuver to prepare for that additional load? It's something that we've seen over the last few years, this concept of what is the strategic advantage of not having a code freeze? And we look to organizations like Google and Amazon that have done such an incredible job on digital. And what we're learning from their methodology, their approaches, and their strategies, that things like code freezes, if you get an inherent advantage by not doing things like code freeze, and you start to question, well, why do we have a code freeze? Why are there risks of changing the code, et cetera? And I'm not going to spend really the webinar on this, but I just wanted to plant that concept that we're hearing from our customers. How do we do away with this, and what strategic advantage do we get? And one other big question that I'd love to maybe open up, hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about in today's panel, is if supply chain and inventory, delivery, logistics, all of these things are already strained, when we double or triple the demand during our holiday season, what do we do? How does it affect pricing, discounting, et cetera? So, our executives that I work with, they're all kind of scratching their head. How are we going to answer these types of questions as we plan ahead for 2020? I don't have all the answers, but I'm hoping that we can get some answers out of the great panel we have today. So, Veronika, thank you for the opportunity to share, and back to you.
Awesome. And actually, Mario, you teed it up perfectly, because the next thing we have is polls. And before we ask the panel, we're going to actually ask some of these questions to the participants. So just a reminder for folks who joined our webinar, we're going to launch the polls. You can find the answers under polls closed. That's where you'll see the responses. So the first poll question: with COVID accelerated sales making every day feel like Black Friday, does this mean that holiday code freeze is going away this year? So looking for your answers on that. The options are yes, we're not implementing a code freeze, kind of, we'll deploy very important projects, or no, we're sticking to a firm code freeze this year. Curious to hear what folks are doing in the audience. Given increased demand, how important is discounting this holiday? The options are very important, somewhat important, less important. We won't discount this year. And here the question is really tied to, is the current online demand enough, or do you think discounting is going to be an important part of the equation? A bunch of answers coming in. It looks like discounting is still important. It's about 77% of people said it was somewhat or very important. A few people said less important, but so far nobody said that they won't be discounting. So I'm going to close this poll. The next question is, have the current COVID-related e-commerce pressures made you more or less prepared for the holiday season? So having such demand right now, is that helping you get prepared? Is that taking away from your holiday season? Are you much more prepared, slightly more prepared, not more or less prepared, or less prepared for this holiday season? Really interesting results. I think most people feel like they're much more prepared after being under intense pressure of COVID-19. I'm going to close this out. And then as a reminder, our webinar in 2 weeks is on the case for customer lifetime value. It's on July 8th, and we have a question relating to that webinar. So for those of you that run paid marketing campaigns, have you considered using customer lifetime value as part of your bidding strategy and acquisition? Options are yes, we've implemented it, we're planning to introduce it, yes, but we haven't implemented it, or we're not considering it at all. All right, it seems like most people have introduced it or are planning to introduce it, which is really interesting. All right, for those of you who are watching on the replay, just a reminder, you can access the poll questions and the responses using the player at the bottom. Obviously, you won't be able to take the poll live. So I want to start by bringing Jacob, Yvonne, and Jeff into the conversation. If each of you can please just quickly introduce yourselves and just tell the audience a few words about your respective businesses. Yvonne, do you want to go first? You're showing up at the top of my screen, so I'm kind of going in the order that I see you all.
Sure. My name is Yvonne Martin, and I'm the director of e-commerce at johnvarvatos.com. We are a luxury menswear brand that is music and lifestyle driven.
Awesome. Jacob?
Yeah, I'm Jacob Rokeach, and I'm the VP of Growth in E-commerce at Anine Bing. Anine Bing is a high-end women's luxury fashion brand based in Los Angeles with Scandinavian heritage. We have 15 retail stores around the world and shipped to 90 countries last year, and still looking at expanding.
We have our first audience question from Michael Hansen. So would you say that consumers are coming into the digital experience very task-driven rather than typical browser-based pre-COVID? Then he kind of goes on saying, thinking out loud, what it seemed that digital experiences need to be on point more than ever. And I guess, Mario, that's probably a good question for you since you looked at the data. What are you seeing? Are consumers task-driven, and what does it mean from a customer experience standpoint?
Yeah, I think I
Now
think
we're going to
one of
start
the
the panel
parts that I
portion.
heard in the question was, webs versus apps. And I think that we've all seen the behavior that people that come in through apps are our loyal customers. They're very task driven. They just want to come in and out. And I think you get a much more of a browsing behavior on websites. Yeah, I like to put in perspective, like, could you imagine opening a physical retail store and not caring about how people walk through their journey in that physical atmosphere? And I think that that same finesse, that same attention needs to be paid on digital. And we're finding people are waking up like, well, look, if I did my marketing campaign well, and I got this incredible brand, and people have this really big desire to spend with this brand, I wouldn't want to get them to the cash register online and then them say, sorry, the cash register doesn't work. And I think that, what my experience here in Quantum is that we see that over and over. It's kind of like we work so hard to get them to the finish line, then we shoot ourselves in the foot. It doesn't make any sense. And I think brands are coming to realize that digital experience is part of that differentiation of the brand. They're associating how easy was it, how fast was it, how quickly did I get to my goal that I was shopping for on that digital website. I mentally associated with the brand. So I think that customer experience is going to be critical to success, and a higher priority from here every day, even more.
Absolutely. And Jeff, now that we're able to see you, can you quickly introduce yourself? We took an audience question while everything was working, so don't worry.
Well, I think the great irony is the guy from the consumer electronics company can't get his webcam to work. But anyway, I'm Jeff Gerstel. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at B&H Photo. We're a fairly large consumer electronics retailer, primarily through e-commerce, based in New York City.
Awesome. And Jeff, I'm going to direct the first kind of panel question to you. We definitely saw that COVID-19 accelerated e-commerce adoption by several years. I know on our prep call, you said in your category in particular, because people were needing to set up their at-home working environments, you saw incredible lift. But what do you think? Do you think online penetration will, whether online penetration will be even greater this holiday? And, what do you think about that trend overall? What does it mean for business?
I think the simple answer is absolutely yes. What we saw, and the surveys I read said something like 25% of people who were surveyed went online to buy when they couldn't go to a store, and 85-90% of them said they liked it and they're going to continue. Yep. So I think we're seeing a permanent shift that's going to increase the penetration of e-commerce in the United States, where we've historically lagged places like Europe and Asia. So simple answer is yes, it's here to stay, and we all need to get ready for it.
Yep, absolutely. And I guess I want to kind of take from your answer there and really kind of talk about new customers for 1 second, because one of the things that we saw, as you mentioned, is a lot of people tried online for the first time during this pandemic, and they liked it, and they're more likely going to stay. But as new customers, you have to. They may not understand what it means to shop online. They may have extra questions. Like, what have you done to onboard them? And Jeff, I'm going to stay with you for a second, and then I'll go to Jacob on this question.
Well, I think my main answer is nothing different. We've been doing this for a long time. We're very much stick to your knitting, execute company, and if you treat people right, they'll come back. So we pretty much have taken that same approach. I think what's been interesting is that the sheer increase in traffic has strained things like customer service and hold time, and if anyone's tried to call customer service these days anywhere, it's a disaster. And so how do we ramp up, knowing if the order is going to take a little longer to ship, and FedEx or UPS is going to take a little bit longer to deliver, there's going to be dogs barking in the background. We need to prepare for that, and all that.
In another room.
It's okay. All that relates in a spike in the number of calls you're getting to help people. So I just think it's sort of what I'd encourage is figure out what you do well, talk to your customers, find out where they're experiencing difficulties in the process, and just fix it. But almost don't get too creative. Just do the right thing.
Awesome. Jacob, how about you? What are you doing anything different to on-ramp customers?
Yeah, I think similar to what Jeff said is we were really good about being nimble when all this started happening. And so, like I said, we have 15 retail stores, and when we started seeing in Europe things closing down pretty early, we looked at what was going on there, and in the US, we actually pulled a lot of our inventory back to our warehouses so we could start fulfilling. And I think, you know, the ability for us to be nimble like that, pull everything back, you know, do RTWs, allowed us to sort of get a leg up on the competition. We do work with 3PLs. They did not close at all during the time. And I think that actually also helped us. So a lot of our competitors and a lot of, you know, when you talk about share of wallet for our woman who's shopping with us, we were available. So, you know, we didn't stop shipping. And, you know, we did have some of the same issues with customer service and, you know, longer wait times and order times, you know, to dispatch, but I think we were ready, and that was, and we were nimble, and just continued doing our process and refining it and making sure that things worked like they were supposed to. So I think that gave us the leg up. We are preparing for holiday and just the rest of the year. This did illuminate some of the things that were our gaps. So we looked at our biggest drivers of customer service tickets, and we're actually trying to help, you know, alleviate those issues. So, you know, where is my order? Making sure that customers have an understanding of like when to receive it and how to find out where it is. And so we're working on that. And also the returns process. I did see a question come in about returns. That has been something that people are doing. We're not seeing actually a higher rate of returns, but we want to make it easier. That was a big driver of what people were reaching out about, was how do I return? Can you help me cause repeat tickets, because we weren't able to answer the first question that they had. So we're trying to make that an easier experience.
Got it. So it sounds like we're not necessarily having a separate process to onboard new customers, but instead, it sounds like it's more about like just being really good about your communication overall to all customers and making it easy, and you know, that creates a good experience for new customers. Jacob already jumped into William Bronk's question about returns, but maybe Yvonne, you can comment on it as well if you can. The question's given the surge in e-commerce, that, you know, is there a bigger priority on returns, and is there a sense of how much weight customers put on returns in terms of their loyalty? That is, like, if you make it easy for them, I guess if you are flexible with your return policy, does that improve the loyalty?
It's a little bit of a tricky question, because when you do have a very high discounting activity, we do try to keep that activity final sale, but we do you know, try to accommodate you know, returns within a reasonable window. Of course, you know, throughout the season, there's no time when we will cut that off necessarily, you know, due to holiday seasonality. I think that more of a focus has been how do we communicate our product details in a way that minimize returns. So looking at sizing and fit information, looking at how we are communicating that, and how we allow consumers to interface with our customer service team and with our team of stylists and store associates via the chat module on our website. So we are investing in more technology to help mitigate returns, but more on the consumer experience side.
Got it. So you're focusing on just making sure they know how to reach you and how they can, and how you can help them with that.
Ask questions up front, ask fit and sizing questions up front, optimize our fit guides and other materials on the site, make them more tightly integrated into the PDP so that we can make that experience better.
Awesome. So Mario presented some interesting insights on digital consumer behaviors, and apologies for the dogs that are popping up in my background. They're in another room, but they have opinions on the topic. But for the panelists, what new digital engagement or behavior metrics are you seeing in your respective businesses? And I guess, how do you think the holidays will amplify those behaviors? So Jeff kind of mentioned calling in to check where's my order. What are some other unique behaviors that you're seeing on your e-commerce sites? I don't know, Jeff, do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, sure. Mario mentioned like a drop in average order value. So we've been, you know, very alert to that, because, you know, your sales could be what they are, but if you're seeing a drop in the order value, it's straining your logistics to deliver. So, you know, we've been keeping a very close watch on that and what actions we take that might impact that. I think many of the metrics are the same. The things I've been watching very closely is the percent of new customers, looking at what those customers are doing subsequent to their first purchase, and observing if the behavior is significantly different. The other thing, I've just been keeping a very close eye on marketing spend. There's I think there's a big opportunity to be very aware and keep your hands on the buttons to make sure things don't either go out of control in either direction. So that's kind of it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think we've been seeing some interesting trends in terms of just traffic that's different than what we typically saw. So we're actually seeing that, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are much softer than they typically were in historicals for us. So we're actually seeing a lot more people shop during the week. So it hasn't changed a whole lot of what we do. We are heaving up our media from a paid perspective more during the week than on the weekends. And it's just, leveling up on the expectations. But that's definitely something we've seen compared, we call it BC and AC. So before COVID and after COVID.
The new BC and AC now. Crazy. Yvonne, are you seeing anything unique?
Not in particular. I mean, we have changed our promotional cadence in response to the pandemic. And of course, as we have closed stores, we have focused more on our digital experience and more on trying to keep that high level of customer engagement and high touch consumer experience going without the touch points of our stores. As you know, we do on the CBGB's location, which was an important location for us, as well as some other flagship stores that are really experience driven. And, so I think that as we continue to reinterpret the brand, we'll see how the new age of social distancing impacts our consumer experience. I think that that's really, the big existential question that we're asking as we go into holiday and as we start to reopen our stores now.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that a little bit down the road, is like, how do you think the stores will play in this holiday? Mario, I guess when you look across your base of customers, what surprised you in terms of the customer behavior during the pandemic, and how did they adapt?
Yeah, I'm hearing themes from all of the participants. I think I saw a question come up about a specific, someone's father going online for the first time. I like to take it the other way too. Like, my daughter is 12 years old. She's I wonder if you call people digital natives because the company's digital native, or people, but if we want to call her a digital native, she was, one of the fun comments I heard from the CTO of Mattel. He likes to say things like, my kids learn how to swipe before they learn how to wipe, right? Like, that's the generation of my daughter, right? And so the expectations that she has, the experiences that she expects are different than what I have, obviously. And so catering to that generation, and on the other side of it, like one of the audience folks, posed the question. My mom's 81 years old. She literally has been calling and texting, leaving voicemails and emails about her frustrating online digital experiences trying to purchase some clothes, right? And she's doing it because both my daughter and my mom know what I do for a living, and they're trying to direct me to go fix some experiences online. I love I get like my best leads from my mom and my daughter. And so, I think that's a surprise that we just didn't have this understanding of this very drastically different demographic, because a lot of businesses that we work with, prior to us working with them, they're thinking about their business with one metric. This is why we ended up with this name, quantum metric. Like, what's the smallest metric? Turns out, like, everyone keeps adding an S to our name, quantum metrics, and it's actually not a bad thing. There's not one metric. I can't look at conversion rate. I got to look at a bunch of different metrics, and how I slice and dice that I think that's one of the most unexpected things coming out of the pandemic is, how do I handle a plethora of segments, and how do I deliver my best? Because I heard from Jeff earlier, I don't want to be reactive. If I'm letting it get to the call center, I don't have the capacity or the scale to handle all the tweets, the Twitter requests, Facebook, online call center, et cetera. So I think it's, how do I juggle that new normal of being able to deliver on this demand? It's obvious we're all seeing an explosion across that digital. And I really think it comes down to, there's a lot of different iterations. So all these different customers want different modes. So we have curbside, buy online, reserve online, pick up in store. There's all these different channels that are happening. How do the leaders prioritize what's important? How do they get their teams to deliver on it? And every time companies deliver, they introduce risk and bugs. It's kind of a little bit of that question that we asked earlier around, do you code freeze during the holiday? Because we all know that every time we release something, there's risk. So I think that new surprise is, how do I get my teams to embrace agility and digital and prioritize what's going to make the biggest impact of their business?
Got it. And one of the things you kind of mentioned is that volume, and that actually ties well into Noah Reimer's question. He's asking about personalization technology and how it played into businesses during COVID-19, and will that change during the holiday season? So I guess, Jacob, I'm going to start with you on this one. If you're getting a ton of volume, then, do you need personalization technology to help you deal with that customer experience? And how do you think that's going to play this holiday season?
Yeah, we do have some personalization on the site right now. We want more, and so that was something that was on our roadmap for this year anyway, to add more personalization when it comes to browsing and recommendations. It's something we have a little bit of right now, but we're working on that. I'd say I'm not sure if that COVID actually accelerated that, to be honest. I think looking at what Mario was talking about is and what Jeff was talking about, is we're probably bringing other things up that might be even more priority to make sure that we're meeting the demand and operationally. So, got
it. Yvonne or Jeff, anything unique you're doing on a personalization perspective?
Yeah, I would echo what Jacob said. Things that we expected to be doing this year might be deferred or delayed based on just making sure we nail the basics before we try and get even more creative. I think there's a tremendous opportunity as we welcome new customers to our company, how we communicate with them more effectively. But that almost seems a nice to have right now. Well, the need to have is don't screw up. Try and make that sound more sophisticated, but anyway.
Absolutely. To add to that, I would say that a lot of my cohort analysis and ongoing observation happens in the email channel versus on site, or some of the more fancy real-time personalization tools. Because once you start segmenting the user experience at such that one-to-one user level, it can really become hard to unify a brand experience. So what we tend toward is personalization in the email channel, where we can really drill down and get to reference a user's personal history.
Got it. So doing a lot more personalization in email. And I guess, Jeff, you kind of mentioned, our goal right now is just not to mess up. So what would you say your three, and I'm going to ask each of you this question, what would you say your three main priorities are, what do you want to get done before the holiday?
I would say, number one, I would say is, look, we all pray that we're not going to go through this again. There's not going to be a relapse, but get our infrastructure ready. Just be ready on the logistics side, with fulfillment, handling returns, customer service, our phone center, our sales teams. Just that we're prepared. And if we, back in March, we had to go from working in the office to work from home over a 2-day period, and I still don't know how we did it, but if God forbid that has to happen again, how do we do it the right way? And so I'd say infrastructure would be number one. Number two, I think now more than ever, it's critical. What's your customer feedback capability? What are the comments you're getting from people? Are you listening? Are you understanding the pain points that they're having, and what are you doing to fix them? We had a big issue with people calling about where's my order. We're able to put on our phone system somehow fairly easily, based on your phone number, if you're calling about order, blah, 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 the status. And we found things like that, just like little tiny nits that we were able to change made an impact. So I think infrastructure and just this customer listening, and I'll leave it at 2.
Okay.
If we can do those, I'll be happy.
2 key priorities prior to the holiday. Yvonne, what about you?
I would echo that sentiment. We really are focusing on the basics right now and getting all of our ducks in a row with regard to optimizing our user experience and implementing mobile payment checkout solutions and If anything that we can get in through code freeze, that would be my top priority, because it's not something that we have enabled right now. And then looking at other user experience optimization that are known conversion drivers like ratings and reviews.
Got it. So you have mobile payments and ratings and reviews. Jacob, how about you?
Probably four things that are
you could take Jeff's, the one that Jeff left behind.
Yeah, I'll take yours, Jeff. And these are things that we were working on before, and I think it's just solidified how important they are. It's omni-channel inventory, so we have our 15 stores, and we want shoppers to be able to come online and see our store inventory. So it's something that we've been working on since last year, and we're actually rolling it out this week and next week finally. So all of our stores will now be basically distribution centers, if you will. So
Awesome.
if we're sold out of a style online, we'll be able to fulfill from a store. So that's a, very important, especially in this day and age. If our stores don't have the same demand that they did, and we're not sure yet, we're able to still sell through that inventory. And then cross-border is something that we're working on. So we already shipped to 90 countries last year. We can ship to more. And just making sure that that's a better checkout experience for customers, so they can check out in their own currency, and that we're saving margin on that. So we're working with a vendor to help us get there. A returns vendor. So we've been doing returns ourselves, but we've realized that there are people out there that could probably help us build a portal and also help streamline that process for our operations team. So we're onboarding someone to help us with that. And it's actually not just one because of our business. So that's been the tough thing of just finding the right partner to work with. And then split payments. So that's one thing that did move forward on our priority list, is finding a split payment vendor that we're going to be rolling out in July.
Got it. So you have a lot to get done before holiday. You're going to be a busy man. Now, Yvonne mentioned before code freeze, but Jeff and Jacob, you didn't mention it. Are you guys having code freeze this year?
We do operation. Yeah, we're calling. I think we're more operational freeze. So I think we're not too worried about the code thing, but I think if we're changing anything in our operations, that's what we need to be more mindful of. So we probably wouldn't turn anything different on that would change our operational process, 15, 30 days before a big marketing event or a holiday. But I think from a code perspective, we would evaluate, of course, and be smart about it. But yeah, I think that's more the concern.
Jeff?
Yeah, and I would say, I wouldn't say a code freeze. It's probably in the refrigerator, not the freezer. So if it's really important, we'll do it. But it's a decision we just take very, very carefully. The benefits got to be clear to offset the risk.
Got it. Interesting. And I think that's consistent with what we saw in the polls. I think, it's not going to be as rigid as it was maybe in prior years, but definitely some pullback on new product features. Wuze Kim actually had a question that has been upvoted 7 times. So we're gonna ask her question, or his question. It's regarding new customers who came in with a promotion or a discount, and they're wondering how promotion sensitive this group would be moving into the holiday. So if someone came in with a discount, have you done any analysis? Do you know if they're only then responding to promotions, or are they then coming in and buying full purchase products? Jacob, since you're nodding, I'm assuming you have some thought on this question.
Yeah, we're not a discount brand ever. We do 2.5 sales a year, but we don't ever do hard marks on anything. So we don't have a sales section, and if something sells out, it's gone. And if it doesn't sell out part of the season, we just move it off the site, and we'll bring it back when we do have a sale. What we did when everyone went into lockdown at the end of March is we actually did a promotion that we never do, and so we did a site-wide discount. And so it was something that we were acutely aware of. And we're looking at those customers, and we've actually seen those customers come back and repeat purchase both within the promotion period, so within the 8 weeks that we were on promotion, which was great to see. But we've also seen them come back and purchase full price at a higher rate than actually some of our other sale customers.
Oh, interesting.
So we are seeing customers come back, even that did purchase with a promotion. But it is something that we're aware of and we pay attention to all the time. So we look at that cohort and their LTV every time we have a sale and every month.
Yvonne, I know, Jeff, you don't discount since you're stuck with me on pricing, so I'm going to direct this one to Yvonne.
I would echo that sentiment. You do see, discount purchasers coming in and making repeat purchases and becoming loyal consumers. And you also see Full price purchasers who are turned off by discounting. You see the opposite, deal seekers. So we tend to actually look at it at a price point and AUR level more than discount versus non-discount, because I think that, for example, if we have someone who's a leather category purchaser, we know that they are high affinity for our brand as a whole, and they purchase across categories and they purchase within category at a very high rate. We know that if someone came in with a sneaker purchase, it is more 50-50 that they will trade up in category or price. So those are the types of nuances that we're looking at more at a category focus level, because that's where our price point nuances tend to be, because we have such a wide ranging across our star versus our collection, which is our premier tier, more bespoke collection.
Got it.
We also see differences by collection.
Interesting. Very interesting. And Mario, do you have any insights on discounting across your customer base? Or I don't know if this is like within the realm of things that you look at.
Yeah, I think looking at margin, looking at campaigns, it's actually something that we're adding to our capabilities, because just our customers are asking us, help us track our campaign success with margin. But I think what's more interesting from a technology perspective, staying on top of, if you're looking at how customers discount, whether they come in from a URL campaign or apply a promo code, et cetera, these are pain points, and they happen they're kind of the shoot you in yourself in the foot moments, like don't do it. So getting visibility into the ways that you discount and the behaviors of customers when they are trying is super valuable in terms of increasing that conversion rate, keeping that high NPS, and obviously the effort score to get to success. It's a definitely friction point in that journey.
Got it. Awesome. I'm going to kind of stay with audience questions because there's so many coming in. Joe Adelanter, he asked everyone's thought on TikTok. So I guess, I don't know if the folks on the call are advertising on TikTok, but what do you think about TikTok, the growth and the engagement, and how is it going to play into your digital marketing spend this holiday season? Anyone? I don't know who's been thinking about TikTok. Jacob.
We're playing with it. Oh, Yvonne, if you want to go first.
No, I mean, I'll just say that I'm not, our demographic is not the millennial demographic necessarily, or rather Gen Z. So we don't see a high penetration of users in TikTok, so it's not really a focus, or Snapchat or any of the other sort of new media platforms. But it doesn't mean that we won't be looking at it in the future.
Awesome. Jacob?
Yeah, we sort of approach it the same way. The price point and who our woman is. We figured they're probably not there as much, but we do see that there's just so much engagement and so many people there. So we actually started testing out, not with paid, but with some seeding. So we're seeding to some of the influencers that we work with already across Instagram and other places, and they actually have TikTok. And so we work with some of them to see if that actually helps drive engagement in some brand list. So we started that in May. So still determining if it works. We are going to do a test this year. So we are planning to put them paid there and to see if it works. Again, the audience is just so big and so engaged, and it's a global audience. So we thought it's a great place to test our waters.
Got it. Jeff, how about you? Consumer electronics and TikTok? Yes, no?
I'm gonna wait to hear Jacob's results, and we'll go from there. So I would just say ditto to what Yvonne said.
For now, you're just watching. It's definitely one of those where Quibi hasn't really taken off this COVID period. TikTok is definitely something that you've just seen kind of skyrocket. I think as people have time, they're entertaining themselves with a lot of videos.
I do think it'll be. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to throw out there that music rights and licensing, being a heavy driver of TikTok, is also a consideration in advertising. You would need to be doing custom music, and sort of taking those things into consideration. So that is sort of a limitation there.
Yeah. Jeff, were you saying something?
Yeah, I think it's also going to be interesting to see how people engage with Facebook. You're hearing certain brands pulling back from Facebook, and will that become a bigger factor?
Yeah, the boycott Facebook in July. It'll be interesting to see how many brands end up really participating in that, and whether that goes beyond 1 month. Interesting. There's a lot of interesting things going on from a media consumption standpoint. I guess back to e-commerce, and Yvonne, I'm going to direct this at you first. Both you and Jacob have stores, and they play a big role in your businesses. Without being able to lean on them, is there anything specific that you're doing with your e-commerce business to help adapt? Knowing that stores may not be playing into the equation like they have in years past.
Absolutely. So to echo some of what Jacob has said earlier, we do have endless aisle technology that we're utilizing to help activate our store inventory and make sure that it is accessible to us, to our consumers in an omni-channel basis. And we're deepening our technology investment and commitment to activating that in a variety of ways, whether it be activating buy online, pick up in store, or utilizing the Hero app, which allows folks to chat with store associates via our homepage. So we are moving towards a more omnichannel and flexible and malleable configuration so that we can be responsive, activate stores when needed, take them offline when needed, and try to be as responsive as required by the ever-changing marketplace.
Got it. So a lot of just understanding your store, and that's very similar to what Jacob mentioned, like understanding what inventory is in your store and being able to leverage it. Jacob, other than that, is there anything else you're doing to kind of adapt the experience?
Yeah, we actually late last year we started a virtual or digital concierge and styling program, and that's actually been something that we're rolling out from HQ to our stores. And so there's someone on the e-commerce team who we hired who is just great, and she's been building out this VIP clienteling service since last year. And we use an app that sits on top of Shopify that sort of works like a CRM in a way. It allows us to send styling and lookbooks and all that. And so she's actually trained all of the store associates. So when the stores were closed, the store associates were actually using the same app. We got all of them accounts, and they were using the same app to send lookbooks. They were doing draft orders and sending out invoices. And the store associates were actually still continuing to drive in business, and they've actually adopted a lot of that same the same thing, and they're continuing to do that. So I think it was, we were prepped, or we were doing something already, and we were just nimble enough to be able to roll it into working for us during the, during COVID and AC, so after COVID, and they're still using it. So I think that's definitely one thing that we're adapting to.
And that's actually something that the store associates could do even when stores are open. There's no reason why when they have downtime, they can't be texting and clienteling. It's a good use of time when there's no customers in store. So
yeah, and they're still doing that, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the things, so Christine Tran had a question. She's referring to the fact that we compared every day like Black Friday and asking, what COVID, after COVID, how are you using after COVID data to shape, plan, and benchmark holidays? So like what benchmarks are you seeing during this period, and how are you using that for the holiday period? And Jeff, I'll kind of direct that to you. So I don't know, the question seems like it's open-ended, so I guess it could be related to customer experience or e-commerce. Christine had a pretty broad question there.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's really looking back at the last 3 months and saying what we have done differently, and then trying to project that going forward, almost to future-proof the business. Things like cross-training people to cover different roles. So a lot of people at home, some people's jobs by definition are much less intense right now than others, and we have others that are over intense. So where can we get people to, once we get back in the office, to cross-train so they can pick up the slack? One of the surprises to me, which shouldn't have been, is how much camera components are made in the Wuhan province. You would never have thought. So, where do you position yourself in terms of inventory on key items? Do you prepare for a disruption? Which, what do? Do you overbuy in certain items, or do you don't know, but you have to make a lot of bets. And I think the guiding force there is, what does your core customer come to expect from you? So we're seeing a lot of new customers coming in, and hopefully we can convert them. But at the same time, in our pursuit of them, let's not lose sight of the core group, and how do we not compromise that, because we know they'll be with us. So I think it's for me, it's been less metric driven, but more experience driven, and just try and critically look, where did we do well, where did we not, and then the other thing I think the biggest positive we had during this period is flexibility. I mean, the wild swings in demand during the COVID period on different types of product have been just incredible. You know, one week we're talking about webcams, the next week we're talking about gaming computers, and just the wild swings. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. So I think it's just it's probably all a story about how do you get more nimble, react faster, closer to your customer, and all the things we've been talking about for years, but we just really saw them come to fruition during these 3 months.
Absolutely. Nimbleness is key. I mean, I think everyone kind of went from, oh shit, I think we need to cancel everything because no one's going to be buying anything, to like the other way around. It's Black Friday every day. Like that, it really requires some agility to be able to kind of swing between those parameters. Jacob, Yvonne, anything you have to add to that? Any metrics or anything that you've learned from the COVID data that you plan to implement this holiday?
I think that from our perspective, we're not using this time frame to benchmark anything. We are going to just be taking it on a month-to-month basis and really trying to be as responsive as possible while building a foundation to help sustain the business. We will probably maintain a more aggressive promotional cadence than we have before, but it has yet to be seen what that will look like in holiday this year. And also considering, our inventory challenges as well. On the flip side of consumer electronics is retail, where stores have been closed for 3 months. Retail, third-party retail has been closed for 3 months. So a considerable amount of inventory backlog is out there for clothing retailers. So this fall holiday will be an interesting time and probably a great time to shop.
Absolutely. Jacob, anything to add there?
I think pretty similar to what Jeff and Yvonne were talking about. We're definitely focusing on new customers, and I think looking at what CPAs are and how those are changing. So Jeff said it earlier, is just keeping your hands on the wheel. We are definitely looking at that every day. I mean, we look at our spend and CPAs on a daily basis. So understanding that, and then also we look at regional changes. So that was one thing that we were doing in March and April, was looking at Europe was much softer before the US was, and then it started taking a turn to go back, and then we saw the weekend thing happening. So just being nimble, like you said, and being agile, and paying attention to like how our regions are doing. So we spend money globally, and understanding what the CPAs and marginal ROIs are in different regions versus just one blanket campaign. So.
Got it. So you kind of expanded the whole idea of nimbleness, not just even to the e-commerce business, but really looking at it from a marketing perspective and finding those opportunities to really kind of double click and really spend more or pull back. Mario, I want to end with you. I know you had an offer for the retailers that are on this call. I want to give you a chance to kind of mention it to them. It's in the handouts, but we're gonna close with that, and then I'll just kind of do some final wrap up announcements.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of falling in love with the panel because I feel like they have come to this to share their stories about what they've learned over the last few months, and it's absolutely aligned with the way I've been approaching this as well, which is, I think Jeff said, focus on the basics. Like, and I think there was a question about personalization, and I love personalization as a customer, but I can't get to personalization unless I get the basics right. And so, what are the lowest hanging fruits we heard about? Just how do we address the things that, like I think Jeff had also mentioned customer listening and feedback, like what are the pain points? Our customers know. And how do we get it? And so we've done investments in voice of customer, in call centers, and I know that individuals on this panel get emails from customers saying, what the heck? Where's my order? We heard. I'm sure there's a bunch of other things. So how do you listen to your customer and not wait for them to fill out a survey, tweet about it, call in about it? And that's basically what we do here at Quantum. We really want to do what Jeff said is, let's focus on the basics. Let's get performance right, because you win and lose customers on how fast your page loads, as crazy as that sounds. And it affects search rank. And so, you get much more organic value from folks like Google. Finding and fixing those pain points, those top friction doing it in an economically rational way. So being able to quantify the value of the different issues that your teams are focusing on. I hear from a lot of leaders that their teams are focusing on 90% of the things that they focus on don't drive value. So making sure that the team, the limited resources, especially now more than ever, that we have, how do we get them to deliver? So at Quantum, we like to work with teams to do all of those pieces. And really, it's a methodology that we're big believers in, this continuous product design. How do we enable product, dev, ops, voice of customer, executive teams, all to see the same picture, that picture from the customer? So if you're joining us on the webinar, or you're listening, you can, I think we have a slide here that you can download. There's an email in there. And you can go to our website and just mention the webinar. And we have a 12-day tune-up that will come in at no cost and with speed and agility, show your teams where they can make that biggest impact in preparation for the holiday season. So we'd love to do it, love to work with your team. So thanks for joining, and Veronika and Jacob, Jeff, Yvonne, thanks for sharing those perspectives, because I love learning from you guys as well. It's been great.
Absolutely. And there's a slide in the handouts that has the details. Jacob, Mario, Jeff, Yvonne, thank you so much for joining. For everyone who is on the phone and still with us, please remember to sign up for the CommerceNext Virtual Summit, July 28th and 29th. That registration opened up yesterday. And then finally, you can find more information on our webinars and all of our COVID research on our commercenext.com/COVID. That's our resource page. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.